Hey everyone, Mako here, and today's video is my second video and most likely the last video on Killing Floor 3, specifically for a long time, at least until Tripwire finally rolls out multiple updates that would fix the game. Now, don't be mistaken, that is not the last KF video I'll be making overall, because just like that bigger Prince of Persia trilogy video I've got cooking, I will also be working on a video comparison of all three mainline games in the series to kind of give a proper perspective on the series within one video without needing of watching all three of my KF videos on the channel. But yeah, I've given KF3 a chance, even after my very disappointed review. In fact, I've given it another 25 hours over the course of the past 2 months after release, just to see if anything is changing, and well, it just does not look well. But before I go on with the video, a like and a sub would be appreciated, and of course, comment away. Like always, whenever a comment shows up, I at least read it and sometimes respond if it makes sense to do so. But enough of the self-shilling for now. Let's just dive straight into my thoughts about the game 2 months after its release. So, over the past 2 months, I've sunk another 25 hours or so into the game, and I've given myself a task. At least get 100% of the achievements in the game, and after that, I can stop. And so, today was the day when I finally gotten all of the achievements. Turns out, the hardest one to get was for me to kill the Queen Crawler on Hell on Earth. And not because it was tough, but because whenever I would play on HOE, I'd be getting Impaler or Chimera non-stop whenever I'd get to a boss wave. But that is kind of irrelevant to the point. The point is, I have essentially almost doubled my playtime in KF3 from my first review, so now I have a bit more of an insight into the game. So, what's the insight? Well, let's start off with the game itself before I start bashing the studio. Every single perk I played, and I believe I've given a shot to everyone except for the ninja, felt the same. And what do I mean by that? The weapons either felt the same as Commando or felt worse somehow. Secondary weapons of each other perk just felt like a worse Bloodhound, although there was like one funny gimmick I found with Sharpshooter's secondary gun. So, Sharpshooter's got a revolver, and it has a secondary fire option where it shoots a freezing projectile. But then you're forced to reload it, kind of like Commando's LMG with if you put a grenade launcher onto it. Except with this gun, you're not forced to. You see, if you shoot the secondary fire and then spam primary fire before the animation of reloading begins, you suddenly can unload every bullet chambered in the cylinder like a rapid fire instead of having that forced delay on revolver. And that's kind of funny, because on top of that, then you still reload that one bullet that is freezing in the revolver. So yeah, kind of like a weird workaround. But yeah, just outside of that, every perk I played felt kind of the same. The ultimate ability was just a fire and forget thing, and try using it as soon as possible so then you might get a second use of it during the wave. There was no real feeling of the perks feeling different because you still would be using the same setup of weapons if you actually wanted to succeed. Or at least one weapon, and that is the Firebug's last epic weapon, the big rocket launchery fire thing. So everything you did kind of just came down to how fast can you get that weapon. And if you're playing multiplayer, maybe it's not necessary to do that, but like in multiplayer you've got at least 2 people playing Firebug in your lobby. Sometimes a Firebug and 2 of those engineer perks that are literally just Demolitionist and Support Specialist kind of like slapped together. And then your time playing as a precision perk is just hell. I mean, it always was difficult to play the game as a precision perk if you were kind of defending a lane with a Firebug on it or with a Demolitionist on it. In fact, you were kind of supposed to not do it, and you were supposed to hold down a different lane. But who gives a shit? Everybody's gonna be playing Firebug, or at least if they're not playing Firebug and let's say they're playing Commando, they will still be using that godforsaken weapon. Also, another thing that I noticed after playing Firebug, after playing Sharpshooter, Even Medic and Commando had the same thing. First bullet accuracy does not exist. And that is the reason why we have this stupid weapon spread thing, and that's why apparently Tripwire mentioned that in the rearmament update, we will be getting a reduced mobility spread, or spread while moving on these guns. So in Killing Floor 1 and in Killing Floor 2, there was this thing where the first bullet you fired was always accurate. Or at least as accurate as it could be in Killing Floor 1, but there was a problem with hitboxes there. In Killing Floor 2, if you fired a bullet, the first one always went on the target, exactly where you aimed. That's why you didn't really need a crosshair in Killing Floor 2, even though you had an option, because your first bullet would always go where you were aiming in the middle of the screen. In here, even if you aim down sights, there is a chance that the first bullet you fire is not gonna go onto the target, because you get something called weapon spread. And that is very annoying when you're playing a precision perk, because imagine you're using a sniper rifle, or maybe not even, yeah, we can use sniper rifle as an example. Let's say you're using the sniper rifle and not the railgun, and instead of putting the sniper scope onto it, you put the second one, the ACOG, I believe it was. And suddenly your shot kind of just goes a little bit to the side of the head, even though you were dead on the head. Why? Or even better, why is my railgun as a sharpshooter shooting at the foot of the enemy when I'm aiming at the middle of the screen? Now you can say, well, yeah, but you're moving, so your accuracy will be reduced. Yeah, but that wasn't a thing in Killing Floor 1 and Killing Floor 2, and that was kind of good, because that made kiting good. That made playing precision perks still viable, because you would still be able to turn around and while moving kind of do a quick bop on the enemy. Now it kind of just feels like you are incentivized to just stop, aim down sights, and then shoot and pray that the first bullet is actually gonna hit. And that's not good. And like I mentioned, the ultimate abilities are kind of just a fire and forget thing. Commando feels kind of the best, and at the same time the worst when it comes to the ultimate ability, because Commando gets so much cooldown reduction on the thing. But the cooldown reduction is tied to how many, I believe, critical spots are removed from a Zed when you kill the Zed. So essentially, it's a good way for somebody, if you're popping heads, which you're supposed to if you're using the scavenger ability as well to refill your grenades. But if you're just popping heads, you will be getting like maybe 3, 4, sometimes 5 maybe times 3-second reset on your perk cooldown ability. So then you can pop it again. But then we roll back to the weapon from Firebug. And now you shoot that one into a big pack of Zeds, and because they all explode, they're dismembered in multiple places. So now, suddenly you just get all your perk cooldown back. So you're kind of just incentivized again to not use your own perk weapon, but to use that one if you want to use your ultimate often. And these ultimates also don't really make sense. I would still prefer more power be put into the guns and not into the ultimate abilities. But okay, that was all specifically on guns and perks. So how do Zeds feel? Well, they are almost entirely the same as they were. It's been 2 months and these Zeds still have this insanely snappy movement that is kind of unpredictable. I've encountered many times where I was like dead on, let's say, a Fleshbound's head, and it wasn't anywhere near a player or myself. So I should be able to just shoot it in the head, and then it would just quickly do like a weird 180 into this animation of him slamming his hands like further away from his body with the extended versions of its hands. It just throws your aim off so much. It's not good. Having that much of snappy movement is just bad. And sirens being ranged also is still annoying. You still kind of not see it coming because you don't expect a siren to just fire at you, right? But well, they do. Husks are slightly less annoying from what I noticed, but that's just because they pushed like one hotfix that kind of lowered the amount of some attacks that they're doing, even though they will still bombard you from far away, so you're still kind of like incentivized to not be in an open space and kind of just like hide under a rooftop so they cannot just do this mortar fire on you. But yeah, Zeds still kind of bad. Bosses are still insanely bullet spongy, even after you add so many attachments to your weapons. Like at this point, my main loadouts on Commando, all of the things on my weapons are purple, and my stuff on Sharpshooter also mostly purple with some blues on it. Same with Firebug, and I've even done a starting weapon as much as I could on a medic. On demo, I didn't even bother because I knew I would be swapping to weapons from other perks anyway. So even with all these things added onto the weapons with these attachments, these bosses are still just big bullet sponges. And I still find it annoying that when you play in a full multiplayer lobby, 3 impalers spawn. So that kind of leads to even more chaos than you usually get when a boss spawns, because now suddenly one guy just runs off and deals with one impaler or just dies to it, and suddenly you are all flanked by one of the 3 bosses that will one-shot you. Or well, they're not supposed to one-shot you anymore, because again, in the same hotfix that they fixed quote-unquote husks, they also kind of changed how armor worked. Beforehand, you were able to just get one shot with like 100% of your armor remaining. Now they made it so there is rarely a case where you will have armor left when you die. So armor should be used up more than your own health, which is good. But that still doesn't fix anything. The bosses are still bland. They still do basically the same thing. They chase you down, then they have 1 or 2 ranged attacks, they have 4 leap attacks, and 2 of them just teleport around as well. It's literally just the same boss, kind of iterated on slightly and with different resistances. And then we get to the updates to the game. See, you would think that if the game is being received negatively by your player base, that in the beta you were told that this game is not gonna cut it, it's bad, you need to fix shit ASAP, that you would be pushing more updates with more fixes to the game over the course of the first couple of months, because you want to keep the player base to not get this bad rep for being a very shitty game. But all that's been done is we've gotten 4 hotfixes over the past 2 months. And 90% of the hotfixes that I saw was just, oh yeah, we've slightly fixed optimization of the game. Oh yeah, you should be able to have a more stable connection to the internet now. Except it's still, the game is still not optimized. Like I said in my review, my PC is somewhere above the minimum requirements for the game, but slightly below the recommended. So I'm not planning on playing the game on high or ultra or anything. In fact, the game still barely runs on medium if I use only upscaling. And that says a lot. The game doesn't even allow for somebody to run the game native most of the time. Like, you actually have to run the TSAA or whatever it was called with 100% to play the game in native, and then the game is still unplayable even on low settings. Like, I genuinely feel forced to using DLSS and the AI frame generation to have at least somewhat of a smooth experience, and then the game kind of just feels bad because suddenly the Zeds kind of like move like they have San Devistan equipped from Cyberpunk 2077. Like, you get this after image on the Zeds. It's just bad. And the network connection, it's better, that I can say, but it's still laggy as hell. Whenever I play a multiplayer game, I find it very difficult to pick up items from like an ammo bag or a syringe bag, because for some reason there is like a weird delay on you clicking the button and you getting the items, the ammo. And if you somehow just kind of like take your aim off of it, well, then you're kind of fucked. You need to press the button again and hope that it works this time. So that's bad. And that's all the updates that happened. Like, the only thing we've heard mentioned about the rearmament update, the one that we are supposed to be getting, that is supposed to at least fix perks and give us some more stuff. We're just getting M14 back. We're getting essentially an AK variant, and we're getting a double barrel shotgun. And everybody's gonna be playing as Mr. Foster, because let's be honest, the other characters kind of are just shitty design. Like, none of them are exciting. I absolutely despise the firebug lady. I can kind of accept the sharpshooter lady, but it's like everybody's just gonna play Foster. Even in the trailer, they all just put a lobby of full Fosters in there. Like, they knew that this is what's gonna happen. So yeah, that's all we had on the update, by the way. And then we only find out that the update is gonna come at the end of October. So we need to wait almost another month for this update. And that's all we're getting. We're getting some slight balance about the thing that I mentioned with the weapon spread for all guns. We're getting 3 new guns, and we're getting perks being finally decoupled from the stupid specialist thing. And that's all. We're not getting actual content. All of the things that are happening in that update should have been here over the course of these 4 hotfixes that we've gotten so far. And they're just not here. Like, legitimately, all these hotfixes regarding weapon balancing that they are patting themselves on the back for, that should have been in like hotfix 2, let's say, after people figured out, hey, there's only one weapon that's actually viable for the game if you want to play on Hell on Earth. And it's even better on normal and on, and on hard. Oh, we should also add the suicidal difficulty, because that's a difficulty level that's missing from the game. It's just... Oh yeah, also movement. Movement is still buggy. I'm sorry, I forgot about movement. It's still buggy. In fact, I've seen a video like 6 hours ago that was posted on the Killing Floor subreddit, that there was a guy that somehow managed to get locked in the sliding animation when aiming, even though he wasn't sliding. So like the whole round, at least, he was running around and he was in a sliding animation. I had even worse bugs. You see, sometimes the game will just prevent you from being able to dash anymore. And I think I've mentioned it in the review already, but sometimes you are able to sprint still, but you will not be able to use the dashes, which are kind of like important to the game at this point. So that's that. I just feel like this whole game is just a giant mess, and they should not have released it at all in that state. They should have let it like stay in the oven for like another half a year. I would have waited half a year if that meant that I would be getting a good Killing Floor game. Not to mention the art direction, but I've already like yapped on the art direction for so long in my original video, so there's no point to that. The only thing that I'll say is that, well, it kind of says a lot that they were pushing the sci-fi look of the game like, what, 80 years ahead of time, quote unquote, in the storyline. And the first update we get, and we get weapons that were developed over 100 years before the game even started. Like, we're getting M14 EBR. That's an old weapon. That's a sharpshooter weapon from back in the day. We're getting MK350 or something. That's just a modified AK variant. And we get a double barrel shotgun. So they were pushing this whole futuristic plastic gun aesthetic, and then we get actual military guns back. I think that's just a failure on their design and their art direction, and it just shows. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm happy that we're getting actual cool weapons back. I just kind of wish that they kind of listened and they stayed with the quote-unquote futuristic sci-fi-ish style from Killing Floor 2, because that was already like a bigger push into sci-fi compared to Killing Floor 1, but it still felt at least kind of grounded with the amount of weapons that were actual weapons. And the Zeds didn't feel as futuristic as they are currently. They still kind of felt like these kind of biological weapon zombie soldiers. Anyway, forgive me for yapping a little bit more today. I'm just doing it all without an actual script, and I just wanted to kind of give you my last thoughts on Killing Floor 3 before I stop finally playing this game. I'm uninstalling this after putting this out. And yeah, next videos will be on actual games that I really wanted to talk about. So, you know, look at the channel from time to time, be updated on what's coming, hit the bell, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.
Well, if that ain't a lesson in fire safety. Pause it and listen up to the fucking follow. Pressure on. Over here. Again. Died? Anyone happen to read his last will and testament? Do a little ammo check, maybe? Watch your step. Final wave in motion. Don't worry, the turret's on our side. Make him dance. Mr. Turret, welcome to the club. Harry, fucking hard. Lippy bitch. Let's get in. You have had it, bully whip. Not today, Jungle Trunks. I've got these instructions to try. All right, darling, you're she's a right little fucker. Well, that went down a treat. Come on, sweetheart. Let's have a little joke. I'm through with this, Commander. Where's the main course? Well, there's worse ways to earn a living.
Hey, while you're at the pod, you might want some health supplies.
Fucking ghastly it is.